G'day guys, welcome back to SuperCoach for DR and welcome to the Round 7 stock market video. Hope you're all having a ripper of a week so far. Now, I must apologise for the very late upload. It's currently 3:30 on a Wednesday morning and things just are not going right. The internet's been playing up. It's just been terrible lately and I'm really struggling to actually get this uploaded. So I think the plan is that I may even have to take a quick scoot over to my mum and dad's, upload it there, and then maybe even sleep there the night. They're only 20 minutes up the road. Not a really long drive, but just frustrating when things aren't going right, isn't it? But as I said, hope you're having a great week. We've got a big week ahead of us. Some blokes last week really popped off. You know, you got your Stewarts, your Gawns, Neils went cocoa bananas. Do we need to bring these players in, or are they sort of out of reach at the moment? Do we look for more value type options? We've got Parker here. Again, went bonkers last week with a lovely 150, but still a really low break even and a really juicy price at the moment. The bloke up the top here, 102k, Robbie Mcrae from the Dogs, mature age rookie, knows how to find the football, 20 touches on the weekend, is a very viable downgrade option for us this week. Of course, Big Maxi in the middle, he's been smashing it, killing non-owners. The Seagull below him, just not his usual self, is he? And I don't think that he's going to be a relevant defender for us this year. Well, at least in the form that he's currently showing us. And then we've got this man, Jordan De Goey. Did suffer from gastro this week, and his break-even is getting higher, so should be a fair bargain in the next couple of weeks. Now, I must apologise as well to all of the new members. I can't actually get into my studio at the moment. Every time that I'm pressing into it, it's loading, so I don't actually know who signed up this week, but thank you very much to everyone that has signed up this week. As soon as I can get into it, I'll give you a big shout out in the next video. So let's get into it, guys. It will be a little bit shorter this weekend. If you watch my round review, you know that I didn't watch a heap of the footy, but I have gone back, watched a few of the games, taken down some notes, and some others, well, I've really had to base it just off some stats that I've been able to get my hands on. So hope that you're well. Good luck for this round, and we'll start off with the premium defenders. Now, the first thing you'll probably notice here is that I do have 3 yellow dots, one next to Short, one next to Stewart, and one next to Hewitt. I think that these 3 blokes will finish in the top 6 defenders for averages this year. So on the next slide, I'll have another 3 dots. These are the blokes who I think you should be really targeting if you are looking for an uber elite premium in your defensive line. But the man up the top, Nick Blustone, we did talk about him last week, had another solid game, finishing on 110 points, 24 touches, 10 marks, taking the majority of the kick-ins. With potentially no Jaden Short, things are really looking up for this bloke. But look, even if we do put that lack of premium scoring history aside, his durability is certainly questionable, and I'd have doubts whether or not he can get through the rest of the season unscathed. If he can, I think that he could be a top 10 defender in his current role. It is a big if though. Jaden Short, has this man found a new calling in the midfield? Played out of his skin, albeit against a struggling team. Racked up 152 points, attended 23 CBAs, was damaging by foot, and just looked sublime. Brilliant start to the match, had a ripper first quarter. 9 touches, 5 contested, had 4 clearances just in the first quarter, and the next highest clearance count from Richmond was 1. Lead meters gained, ended up on 57 points for his efforts after the first quarter. Almost kicked a left footer floater in the second. 15 touches, 6 score involvements halfway through the second. 87 points from 18 touches at halftime. And then he just continued on for the rest of the match. I've said it from the start of the year, a must-have, and at his current price, you would be absolutely crazy as a non-owner not to jump on now. Adam Sard, he's a pod that's had a solid season to date, flying under the radar a little, almost impossible to bring him in though, sharing the ball with Hewitt, Doherty, and half our other defenders. Tommy Stewart, wow, what a game. 40 disposals, went at 80% efficiency, almost 1,000 metres gained, whopping 14 marks. This bloke did it all and does have the perfect role. Do we trade him in this week? Look, personally, I don't think the value is there, and I'd either bide my time, look to get him in once he's dropped. But if you're cashed up, you're looking for your last defensive slot, it'd be the best option to bring in, I think. And I'm really jealous not having him in my side. Bailey Dale at 113, it's basically the same story as last week. I went through all of his numbers and came to the conclusion that is a consistent 100 to 105 type guy. Low ceiling, high floor. A nice filler at D5 to D6. And also has an attractive buy for defenders. One to consider if you want to play it safe. Dan Houston, 94 points of the weekend. Pod option if you like, but not for me. Georgie Boy looks set to return this week, which will be nice. If you haven't got him, still a great trading option. Pendles, 115, playing down back, then pushing into the midfield late. This man is loving life at the moment. What a role. Forget his age. He's a legitimate option in our backlines and someone I'm actually keeping a pretty keen eye on. He's got the potential to finish around the top 8 to top 10. Only dropped 2 sub-tons this year with an 87 and a 98, which is still respectable. So reliable and consistent scorer with a nice role. And let's be honest, the man is SuperCoach royalty. His best days are certainly behind him, but with his recently acquired defender status, he is relevant once more. And Isaac Cumming played a ripper of a game and scored a well-deserved 135 points on the weekend. Have a lovely stat line, 33 touches, almost half contested, 7 tackles playing off half back. Took 4 out of the 6 kick-ins, no Whitfield to worry about down back. So really is putting his hand up as a pod selection and a name to look out for. James Sicily, another great game from him. Captained the Hawks in his 100th and did the team proud, killing it with the intercepts early. 10 touches for 42 points at quarter time. I noticed that he didn't take a heap of the kick-ins, but he often receives them, which is even better for his scoring with that added mark. Ended up on 117, which was great. Ideally, you should have purchased him at 500k or under, so the value isn't really there, but he looks like a safe pick, still fine to bring in. Witho out with health and safety protocols this week, so that rules him out as a trade-in. Richie, below par season to date, but one to keep on your watch list. One of the highest kick-to-handball ratios in the comp. It was 19-1 on the weekend, but how's this? 100% of them were effective. Now, how on earth did he get an 89? I'm guessing it's because only 3 of those 20 touches were contested, and he only actually gained 450 metres, so not a whole lot of damage. But as I said, just keep him on your watch list for now. Zorko playing more of a forward role now that Kitty's back. A little bit of time through the midfield as well. Does have a nice upcoming fixture with West Coast, Adelaide and Hawthorn, but his body worries me, and that puts me off seriously considering him. If he stays fit though, should score well. Doherty, you'll see the dot there. I've got him in the top 6. I've got him close to a lock in that top 6, but some really nice scores this year. 5 scores over 100, and 4 of those are 122 plus. Only the 91 on the weekend, but that's a pretty nice floor. The main issue here is his buy, but if that doesn't worry you, definitely a player that can finish in the top 3 defenders and fine to bring in. Crispy, 4 tons in a row now, so playing some consistent footy. Nothing spectacular, but just chugging along and is as durable as they come. Really safe type pick, and that's part of the reason why I do have that yellow dot on him. That durability probably means that he just plays every game of the season. Don't need to worry about him missing like other players. Dawson, 93 in the weekend, which was the 3rd highest for the Crows. 21 kicks, 3 handballs, 8 marks, but only the 3 contested possessions, which I think prevented him from tunning up. Also had the 6 kick-ins, but only played on 66% of the time, which was frustrating. And Jack Sinclair, love this bloke. Lowest score of the year, but in terrible conditions. Finally went below the ton, but still played a decent game. And that season low score has not put me off in the slightest. I'd love to bring him in, but just can't fit him in at the moment due to his buy. On to the defenders, 250 to 500k. Up the top, we have Josh Gibcus again. A really solid last couple of weeks, an easy hold, and projected to rise another 35k this week. In a fortnight, has changed from mediocre rookie pick to a successful rookie selection. Kitty, now I was really keen on him in the pre-season. Really talented player. As soon as he's fit, he's come straight back into the 22. I suspect his inclusion may have resulted in Zorko's increased CBAs and forward time over the weekend. I love his DPP. Being able to switch him from defence to your forward line could be really handy, but it's an awkward price now at this stage of the season. Hasn't done anything too special to make you really want to bring him in, so I'll pass for me. Hingy surely comes back this week with Smith out. Look, I'm not sure, but fingers crossed, because he's still got money to make. If he doesn't get selected this week, or is at risk of becoming a sub, I'd consider moving him on, unfortunately, because it's a bit of a bugger. He does have more money to make. Patton McCartan, hopefully back this week. I'm holding for now. Jake Bowie should get to 400k, should easily get to 400k, maybe make a little bit more, which is nice for owners. Could either keep up until his buy or flip him in the next couple of weeks. Melbourne do have a pretty easy run coming up though. Noddy, after consecutive tons in rounds 4 and 5, Noddy's gone a little quiet with a 42 and a 57 in the last 2 weeks. As a result, his break-even now sits at 77. And as we know, what the general rule is, when a rookie's break-even exceeds their average, it's time to cash them in. But we have a few things to consider. Firstly, there are no defensive rookies to downgrade to. Secondly, we've seen his ceiling and he is playing north. His DPP status, that's handy for swings, potential trades and buys. And speaking about buys, he does have the last one, so can provide some nice cover for the first two. The issue is if he drops a 40, he almost becomes a must trade out next week. So with Noddy, there's really arguments for trading or holding. Jordan Ridley equaled his highest score of the year with a 115, 20 touches, 8 marks, a couple of tackles, but he'll have to do a lot more for us to trust him as a trade-in option. Lockie Whitfield, a role reversal for him this week, which did result in a higher score, but he still seems as reliable as a Nigerian bank account. His stat line, very similar to Cogs, 19 disposals, 6 tackles, and best of all, 3 goals. But the issue is, even with that improved stat line, he still could manage to punch out a 3-figure score. I'm not sure if a 95 plus average is entirely possible in this role, but I suppose something needed to change, and hopefully he can start to create more damage with his disposal and be rewarded by the folk at Champion data. I also noticed that he seemed to be blocking for teammates at stoppages rather than making himself an option. So, a team first type approach, but that's not good for SuperCoach. And it seems like he'll probably be a luxury trade when we've completed the rest of our team. But if you've got him out already, then yeah, you'd be loving life at the moment, depending on who you got him for him, obviously. Luke Ryan, worst scorer of the year with a 62 on the weekend. He's a pass for me. And the Seagull, well, I hate to say it, but he's not really needed anymore. The young ones are coming through. The babies are stealing his chips. Just seems too reliant on kick-ins. And his ceiling's really decreased. It's like his second story has been blown off by a hurricane. 102, 104, that's okay. Then the 76, 105, 71, and then 84. They're not Whitfield type, numbers, but they're poor for Lloyd's lofty standards of years past. I would avoid for now and just jump on if he comes good. But we do need to see a lot more and gain a little bit more trust back for the Seagull. On to the defenders under 250k. Not a lot to see here, but we will start with a man up the top, Sam de Koning. Really, really great contested mark at the end of the game. Really showed off his skill set, but it was his best game of the year with a 77 and did come at an ideal time for many coaches, as we did need him on field last week with the likes of Hinge, McCartan and Hewitt unavailable. Look, he's just going to continue to rise in price at this stage with his low break even. We don't do anything with him. Just hold for now and watch him grow. Wanganeen Millera, his best game of the year with an 85. Didn't see this spike game coming, but owners would be wrapped. Gathered 18 touches, only the 5 contested, but that's expected. Great to see he's now going to make some more coin. Just hold for now. And Flynn Perez, disappointing. Only the 39 points on the weekend. 12 touches at 66%. Owners would be hoping that he manages to pull out some sort of a spike game, similar to what Wanganeen Millera did last week. But the way he's been going, I can't see it coming anytime soon. On to the midfielders, 500k plus, the man up the top, Cripper, without a doubt the best buy this week. A must-have at his price and an absolute no-brainer if you don't own him. Apart from his injury-affected game, hasn't put a foot wrong, hitting the scoreboard regularly, big contested numbers, and putting his hand up as a captaincy option each week. I won't go through all these numbers because they're well publicised now. Just find a way to bring him in. Callum Mills, this bloke is a beast. Tough as nails, leading the way in the Swans midfield. After his 200 plus week before, he did back that up with a 139. 30 touches, 7 tackles and a goal. Out of reach for most people now. And if you're keen on Mills, you probably have to wait for him to have a down game, if that's going to happen at all. But well done if you picked him up in the last couple of weeks. Seb Ross, look, he deserves more respect than he's been getting from me, but I still don't trust him. In saying that, he's been hard to fault with a 116 3-round average. Really great effort from Rossi. Jelly hit some form, 41 disposals, 17 contested, 6 tackles, 8 clearances, 736 metres gained for 152 points. He was a bad man, and as I mentioned, he did look back to his best. Now, trust is the major issue here. He plays for the Giants, he's coached by Leon Cameron, his body has a tendency to let him down, so he's not the pick for me. but if he does continue on from last week, he could go on an absolute tear. Lachie Neale just dominated over the weekend, looks to be right in Brownlow medal contention. 37 touches is impressive in itself, but add to that the fact that 26 of those were contested. That's a monster of a game. 9 tackles, 11 clearances, kicked a goal, just did it all, and if you had the C on him, you would have been greatly rewarded. Clary, big starts the game with 13 touches, 44 points at quarter time, and looking like he'd punch out a really nice captaincy score, but he did slow up, put up 119 points, which is respectable without being fantastic. One of our uber elites, and in my view, a must-have, not necessarily this week, but certainly by the end of the year. Mr. Touk Miller, the trademark, early on was looking like another disaster game, but did this bloke respond? Amassed 36 possessions, 17 of those contested, 10 clearances, laid 6 tackles, and hit the scoreboard with a couple of goals. Even his disposal efficiency was up on previous weeks, going at 75%. This is an ideal time to bring him into your side. One of the uber elites who was 85k down on his starting price, coming off 160 with a break even of 85. It's really, really hard to ignore. So I highly recommend that you look closely at Touk Miller. He is a buy now this week. Ollie Wines, just realised that break even should actually be in the red. His 3-rounders only an 85. Break even is 92. But apart from his injury affected game, has been really consistent. A 101, 96, 118, 99 and a 104 against the Saints last week. Main issue here is that he hasn't displayed much of a ceiling, and it's questionable in current form if he's worthy of one of our precious midfield spots. Look, if you're broke as a joke and you're desperate for a cheaper option, you could bring him in. You see the symbol there, the empty wallet. But look, things just aren't going his way this year, and I think he might be having a bit of a Brownlow hangover. And Darcy Parish, another solid game of the weekend with 111 points, 13 contested possessions, showed enough to warrant selection in your side, averaging close to 120 over the last 3. He could be a point of difference in your side, as he's only owned by about 8% of the competition. Tom Green, the young bull, there are so many situations he finds himself in where others would get caught holding the ball, but he's so powerful, always keeps his feet, lifts his arms, gets a handball off, rarely gets caught holding the ball. Tapered off slightly after a massive first couple of rounds, but still playing some really solid footy, only the 24 touches, but 17 were contested. As a premium midfielder, however, we do expect more than a 107. Track is a buy now for me. Hit back on the weekend with a 131. Over 30 touches, really cleaned up his efficiency, which does make a huge difference for his scoring. He's a great buy at his current price and could go bananas against some upcoming opponents, including West Coast and North. You could potentially wait another week if you have others higher on your hit list, but should finish top 10 and comes at a great price, a much cheaper alternative compared to some others. Benny Keys, a little bit quieter over the last couple of weeks, but his break-even is still in the green. A real feather in his cap being named as a stand-in skipper in the absence of Sloan and Smith. Right for this bloke, sets the standards on and off the field, and a big reward for his efforts. Sammy Walsh, I'm going to look to target him after his bye, firmly on my watch list. Playing some great footy, 29 touches, over 80% efficiency for 129 points over the weekend. Second highest 3-round average of any midfielder on this page, and looking like a lock for a top 10 average from here on. Jack Steele, just did Jack Steele things. A first-time owner for 2022 for me. I was a tad disappointed that his scoring pattern didn't continue, but a 122 is all good. Obviously a must-have before the end of the year, and should hover around this price for a while. Maybe out of range for some, which is partly why I bit the bullet last week and got him in while I could. Rory Laird continues to power on as a pod and fly under the radar. Currently the 10th highest averaging midfielder, ahead of the likes of more popular selections like Miller, Track, even a Brayshaw. And if you're looking to stray away from the pack, he could be a sneaky selection, but the value isn't really there at over 630k. The Bond, only the 19 touches over the weekend, but 14 of those were contested. Kicked a goal, 7 clearances and laid 5 tackles. Playing predominantly in the midfield with stints forward. Did lead the Dogs for CBAs with 22. Steph Martin, the only one that was high with 24. His break-even is still in the red, so no need to bring him in now, but someone that I would consider. Titch, personally can't trust him, and I'm not considering him. Only the 22 touches and 78 points over the weekend. A pass from me, I'm just scratching him off my list. Andy Brayshaw, 28 touches, but 9 clangers, only delivered him a 77. So like Titch, pretty disappointing over the weekend. Does have a high break even this week, but if there's ever a time where it can go 150, it is this week against the Roos. And it doesn't really make sense, but in a funny type way, I can still see some value in the pick, but obviously there are much better value options than Andy. Has the Suns and the Pies in rounds 9 and 10, so could go on a bit of a hot run and shoot above 600k in the next fortnight, which is where that value may lie. Definitely one to consider, keep on your short-term watch list, but mid-70 type scores aren't really acceptable for a primo midfielder. And Jack Mcrae dudded me with his captain score this week, robbed me of a 2600 plus. I'm starting to get slightly concerned now. His floor seems to have dropped a little, only 18 out of 30 CBAs, 28 touches is low for his standards, but the killer here was his lack of contested possessions. Only the 7, which really hurt his score. Surely he bounces back this week, but there are no guarantees. A massive break even of 200 means that his price will start to fall, probably one to avoid as a captaincy option until he can prove he's back in town. On to the midfielders, 250 to 500k. We're obviously not looking to bring in any of these blokes this week, but the main question is, who is ready to get rid of? Who's on the chopping block? Who's ready to get culled? So we'll start with the man up the top, Matty Rao. He is hitting form again with a 103 against Lions and a 99 last week. His break-evens come right down again to a 39. So looking to make cash, and seems like I should have had a little bit more patience with Rowley, but I'm not complaining too much given the fact I trade him for Steele. We keep for now. If you can keep pumping out 100s, there's no real need to trade him, but if he drops a couple of poor games again, then I think we just move him on. Horn Francis lost 11k last week, but his break-even is achievable again. Won the Rising Star nomination, but far from his best performance this year. The clangers are hurting him, but he's trying hard. Some chopped him last week, and many will chop him this week, which is fine. We would have liked to have held him onto the buy. Would have liked to make a little bit more money on his starting price, but he's still been a decent selection for us. Perfectly fine if you do want to hold him to the buys, but I don't think many coaches will be in that situation, and we'll look to move him on sooner rather than later. Nick Dacos, I mentioned in my round review that I'm a firm hold on Dacos. He may leak some cash, and his scoring has been slightly underwhelming, but he's a reliable on-field rookie, and I trust him over most others. Has the last buy, so you could hold until then. It's okay to trading out, don't get me wrong, but personally, I'd rather hold for as long as I can. Caldwell, you don't really need to rush to trade him out, but certainly a player you could look to upgrade soon. And Jared Berry, pretty much in the same boat as Caldwell, but that break-even is now up to an 86. A sub-50 score this week has resulted in that highest break-even, but he is playing the Eagles this week, and an 86 plus certainly isn't out of the question. On to the midfielders under 250k, and the man up the top of the list this week, Greg Clark, is a special inclusion because he's only played the one game, but I'm going to bend the stock market rules and pop him on the slide this week. Obviously a mature age rookie. We know he injured his shoulder in the preseason, but he has recovered, came back through the resis, and finally got his well-deserved opportunity. Decent starts of the game, 4 touches at 100% efficiency for 21-point first quarter. And what do you know? Another 4 touches at 100% efficiency in the second. That had him at 45 points at halftime. Everything was looking good. And at the end of the game, continued on his good form, ended on 24 disposals, 6 tackles for 104 points. It was a great start to his AFL career, and he's also going to be a great on-field option. Now, I never recommend to bring a rookie in after only the one game, but Clark is a bit of a different beast, and I'd have no hesitation on going early on him this week. The man below him, Robbie McComb, is on the bubble this week, comes at a bargain price of 102k. Found plenty of the ball, gathered 20 touches playing on a wing last week, kicked a couple of snags, but what hurt him was his efficiency. I think he keeps his spot for the short term, but again, there are no guarantees. Look, the fact that he has displayed the ability to find a heap the ball at reserves level, has a mature body, gives me a bit of confidence with this pick, and I am leaning towards bringing him into my side this week. Hunter's now out, which bodes well for him. He may be only one poor game away from losing his spot though, but hopefully they do persist with him like they did with Scott and McNeil last year. If he can clean up his disposal, his scoring potential actually looks half decent. So he's shown a really nice ceiling at VFL level. If you can now translate that into the seniors at AFL level, I think he could be a really nice bench option for us. Finn Callaghan, 63 points on the weekend. He was okay, but the ship has sailed with this pick. Hold if you own, but certainly don't invest. Ward was obviously rested this week. Hopefully that done him the world of good and he can come back in and give us that elusive 80-plus score. Not holding my breath though. And Ben Hobbs, sorry Benny, but I've had to give you the poo symbol this week, mate. Seems like a failed rookie pick at this stage. Just doesn't have a friendly role. He's an inside midfielder, not a deep forward. And with a 3-round average of 37 and a break-even in the 40s, unbelievably, he's looking to leak cash this week. So it's been a mini disaster trade in, and all you can do is cross your fingers that he pulls out a 65 plus and at least makes you a little bit of cash. On to the rucks, and the man up the top, Lukey Boy, did kick West Coast's only goal in the first quarter, 6 disposals at 83% efficiency with a few hitouts, 31 points for his efforts, but not the greatest kick in the second, little chip across goal that got intercepted. Did get up to 46 points at half-time with 5 contested possessions and 4 clearances. 30 points second half, ended up on 76 points, so not too bad. Unfortunately though, he is out this week due to health and safety protocols, so he may be an option to downgrade next week. Sammy Hayes, only the 53 points of the weekend and well beaten in the hit-out department, but let's be honest, the conditions are atrocious and we couldn't expect a lot from him this week. All good for those who have him sitting at R3, but for those who have him at R2, you'd be slightly nervous. I think he does bounce back for a 75 average from here though. A break-even of negative 36, but I think you've probably missed the boat here. No real reason, I don't think, to want to bring him in this week anyway. Braden Preuss, the preferred option in the ruck over Flynn. Another solid score from the big man. Had a great start to the game. He's just so strong, you know. Great goal, mark assist to Jesse Hogan. Then another intercept mark. Kicks into the 50. Hogan gets a crumb. Almost kicks a goal. Then shortly after, makes another great contest. Brings the ball to ground. And you guessed it, led to another Jesse Hogan shot on goal. And at the end of the day, only the 10 touches at 50%. But did his damage with his strong marking and hit-outs to advantage. Great on-field option and making us a bucket load of money, so couldn't have worked out better so far. Jared Witts, what a man he is. I'm a very, very happy owner, and he's gone above and beyond my expectations so far this year. I really didn't see it coming, but he's had a decent rub of the green, coming up against some pretty subpar opponents, but you can only play who you come up against, and he is dominating. Has a great ceiling, scored a 136 last week, coming off 143, and he's also pumped out a 131 and a 154 as well. Sydney, Freo, the Dogs and Hawthorn to come in the next month. So I can see him going big again in at least 3 out of the 4 games. I've got no plans to trade out Witts at any stage. He's a keeper in my eyes. And his only competition is obviously Gawn, who'll be a must-have. And possibly in English or Darcy. But good on you, Witsy. Keep pumping out those monsters, mate. Huey Dixon saved a few coaches from copping a donut this week. Missed an easy shot in the first after a nice mark that he just had to kick. Would have been some really handy extra points. Ended up on 21 points after the first quarter, which was nice. But as I said, that could have been a 30. Unfortunately, though, didn't do much after that in a pretty tough night for the Eagles. With his old mate Stranica out, Dicko may find himself as the number 1 ruck this week at West Coast. Now, it's tough to know what to do. It's okay to hold, and I think it's okay to trade. He could punch out 90, or he could lowball us with the 40s. Coming up against the Big O and Fort, it isn't the scariest proposition, but they are a decent double act without being fantastic. I think this one's really team dependent as to what you want to do with Hugh. Big Maxi, absolutely killing on owners, absolutely dominating. Congrats if you captained him last week. He went off. No Jackson the side, and he took responsibility. I've actually seen stats somewhere to suggest that he scores better with Jackson in the side, but I can't confirm that. But he had a massive start to the game, 46-point first quarter, and then he just continued on until he ended with a 172. So 29 touches, 2 goals, 39 hitouts, 9 clearances. And I tell you what, if he hadn't have gone at only 55% efficiency, we had a 200 on the cards here. I'm just waiting for Bruce to max out in price and then jumping on Gawn as soon as possible, because it is becoming painful and almost, well, detrimental not owning him. Darcy, I'm just going to monitor for now. A decent price, but a big risk. Hasn't been his year so far. He's found it difficult to stay in the park. Massive ceiling, however, and has the potential to go bonkers. And Lukey Jackson should return this week or the next. I don't really see him as keeper material, and I'd even consider breaking the sideways trading rule and swapping him to Parker. Certainly not a must trade out, but that break even isn't looking great. Onto the forwards, 500k plus. The man up the top, Lukey Parker, recommended him as the best buy last week, and without a doubt, still the best buy from this range this week. A lovely 3-round average and very likely to finish as a top 4 forward in my opinion. On the weekend, played through the midfield, went bang with 150 points. Another example of his great ceiling, had 24 CBAs, which was a team high, and I assume with Papley's return that Parker continues to spend major minutes in the midfield. The good thing is even if he is rested forward, he's a type of player that can still snag a goal. Still saving good coin on his starting price. He's coming into my side this week, and if needed, it's not the worst idea to just pop him in the midfield for now and then transfer forward when the time's right. Dunkley, most likely our F1 for the year, in some great form, and probably my preferred VC over Mcrae at the moment. We've all got him anyway. Libba attended 50% of the CBAs over the weekend with 15 out of 30, 24 touches, 13 contested, did have 7 clearances, but for me, didn't do enough to warrant selection, but we'll just continue to monitor. Heaney, I'd be bringing in Parker over Heaney this week because of the value, but should find himself running more through the midfield with the return of Papley, similar to someone like a Parker who I mentioned before. 103 points on the weekend, kicked 3 goals, and as usual, gained a few junk time points, which is always nice for owners. That 3-rounder though, it's under 3 figures, but I'm not too concerned here. I actually see a little bit of upside given the fact he should be granted some of that midfield time, or more of that midfield time. And Timmy Taranto, just keep him on your watch list. 97 on the weekend, only the 23 touches, butchered the ball, which didn't help. Did lay the 6 tackles and kick a goal though, which helped to keep his score ticking over. On to the forwards, 250 to 500k. The man up the top, Nick Martin, scoring like a premium at the moment. Great on-field option and a shining light in a pretty dull season to date from Essendon. 25 touches at 80% efficiency, 4 tackles, gave him another 100 plus score. Just enjoy watching him continue to grow, make cash, and then most likely flip him during the buys, I think. Rosie scored the 87 points playing that mid-forward role, 9 CBAs out of 13, but 5 clangers didn't help his score. The time to bring him in was last week, and I think the ship, is really started to sail now, even though his break-even's still low. Look, personally, I'd be waiting for someone like a Dacos in a week or two. Now, Darcy Cameron's an interesting selection, 330,200, only a 3-round average of 69, but remember, he did score 115 last week, and that really does put into perspective how poorly he was scoring when he did play this season. But obviously, it's all about role. He's been thrusted into that number 1 role, obviously, since Grundy's gone down, so that does mean good things for his scoring potential. Break-even of 22 should absolutely smash that this week. They've given him a projected score of 75, and he's looking to rise around 24k. Now, if he gets around the 100 this week, 115, then another 100, then he'll shoot up in price pretty quickly. For this to be a viable selection, he'll need to be obviously scoring well to be an on-field option, and he needs to make about 150k, 100 to 150k, I think, for this to be a good selection. Obviously, he's not going to be a keeper because when Grundy comes back in, obviously that means disastrous things for his average and scoring potential. So if you want to take a bit of a gamble and get him in, I don't think it's the worst idea. But again, just keep in mind that I don't think you're going to have a keeper for the entirety of the year. Cogs played predominantly forward, but played well and did impact the scoreboard, kicking 3 goals, 20 touches, 7 tackles, 4 clearances, solid game, and he did play his role really well. Just continue playing him on field, and hopefully we can leave him at F6. Now, Mr. Bolton here, 30 touches, 3 goals over the weekend. Some people are getting excited, but remember that he was playing against West Coast too, pretty much like witches' hats at the moment, and consistency will always be Bolton's issue. Look, he's one of the most exciting players in the comp to watch when he's on fire, but a burn man for many last year, and I can't see too many people that would be willing to go there with the other options that we've got available this year. Naish, solid start to the game, but I'll tell you what, I had a pretty bad moment in the second. Thought the ball had crossed the line, stood there. Luckily got a free kick for a high tackle, but then kicked it directly to Prestia. He bangs through an easy goal. But look, Naish had a really good season to date. I think he's fine to move on now, though. Arioli, 61 points at half-time, 14 touches and 6 marks. Then a 40-odd second half was okay. Ended up another 100-plus score. Really solid season to date, but I wouldn't be trading him in. I think you just hold if you own. Rochelle, the best time to move in was last week, but if you did hold, I'd recommend to jump off this week. 11 touches, 7 contested, and didn't hit the scoreboard. Only the 46 points and starting to leak some cash now. And Will Brodie, one of his quietest games of the year with a 75, only the 19 touches, 3 clearances, which is down on his usual production, but I'm not panicking yet. Still a chance to finish our F6, a definite hold for now, and I think we just reassess in the coming weeks. Pat Lipinski played a good game on the weekend, playing through the midfield, rotating forward. 15 out of 35 CBAs, 30 touches, 97 points. Only the 7 contested possessions hurt him, I think. So if he could add some toughness to his game, not saying he's a weak type player, but add some added toughness, I suppose his ceiling that would certainly increase. Trelaw seems to be becoming less relevant, and I'm guessing it's his injury history that's putting most people off. It's certainly what puts me off. You know, an okay type season to date, nothing special. Gresham, 86 points on the weekend, and that could have been 100 plus if he kicks straight. 3 behinds on the night, but I suppose the positive thing is that he is getting the opportunities, similar to someone like a Will Brodie, just be holding for now. Toby Green, now this bloke is such a talented player, absolutely elite. He's got the ability to just turn a game when he's on the park, and you know, it seems like his teammates just walk taller when this bloke's around. Look, love him or hate him, you can't deny he's a master of his craft. 4 goals, 117 points on the weekend, looked amazing. There's always going to be a trust issue with Toby. We know what his history is like, but look, one to keep a watch on if you want to take a gamble on a pod selection. Not for me, though. Zacky Butters had the same amount of CBAs as Rosie, so getting some mid-time, had a nice first half, then tapered off a little bit. 25 touches, also had the 5 clangers, and only went at 69% efficiency. But geez, it's pretty tough to go at, 75, 80 on a night like that. So it's been a frustrating pick this year, but I'm holding as I know he's got it in him, and I'm still pegging him to be a top 8 forward. Season average may suggest otherwise, but I do rate his potential. And Jordan De Goey, well, we've got the toilet paper symbol on him here, and it's a new one for this week, as Gastro is running rife at the moment. De Goey was playing crook last week, which resulted in a subpar game, and he's now staring down at a pretty big break even. I wouldn't touch him yet, but in a couple of weeks, he could be a bargain buy, so definitely one to put on your watch list. And we'll finish off with the forwards under 500k. Up the top of the list this week, we have Paul Curtis, 117,300. Negative break-even of 48. Looking to go up around 45k this week. Played a decent game for his 58 points. Kicked a goal, 7 contested possessions, but it was his efficiency that let him down. Only went at 58%. So, look, job security, it looks okay for now. I think they should persist with him. If you're looking specifically for a forward rookie downgrade, then this is a bloke to trade in this week. But look, personally, I'm not in need of a forward rookie, so I'm passing, and certainly not a must trade in by any means, but if you're in the market, here's the most obvious option, I think, this week. Toby Bedford came back into the side, did play round 1, had to wait a while, came back in last week, now on the bubble. Seemed to play his role pretty well, but not sure if he holds his spot in the coming weeks. Melbourne are a tough side to break into, so I'd be passing on him. Roses, after a couple of 70s, only scored the 48 this week. 7 touches, did hit the scoreboard, which saved him from, what, a mini disaster. No reason to trade him in, no reason to trade him out, but try to get him off-field ASAP if you're running him, I think, at F6. Windhager, 13 touches, 60% efficiency for 54 points. But, you know, a bit of a nothing type rookie, I suppose. McDonald, not sure if they give him the same treatment as Ward and give him a rest this week. But 55, that was his equal highest score of his career. So hopefully he can improve on that and somehow make 150k. But, you know, and that's the issue with trading him now. He simply hasn't made enough. And that's, again, similar to someone like a Corey Durden, 57 points the weekend. That was actually an improvement on previous weeks, but did lose a small amount of cash. His break-even's in the red, so all good to sell him. But yeah, just has not made the coin that we really wanted to see from him. So that's it from me for now, guys. Apologies again for getting this out late. Just one of those really hectic weeks, but hopefully you've had time to assess some of the options that you might want to trade in or trade out. All the best of luck for this week, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Cheers, bye.